Hey, story fans, it's the Writing Ref, where I don't hate, I just officiate your favorite TV shows. Like Ahsoka, which is out and going strong, and continues the ever-expanding story of Star Wars. Now, I'm loving Ahsoka, but I wanted to talk about something that's been plaguing Star Wars since 2012, when Lucas sold it to Disney. He didn't get to finish one of his major themes, leaving a huge plot hole that never gets explained. No, it's not this one.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
It's the balance of the Force.
It is possible he was conceived by the midichlorians.
You refer to the prophecy of the one who will bring balance to the Force. You believe it's this boy?
And that, story fans, is when we first heard about the balance of the Force. And you'll notice in that scene, there is a lot of talk about midichlorians. Now hold on. I know that's a controversial topic, but believe me, Lucas wanted them involved all the way to the very end, because they were going to illustrate a balance not between just light and dark, day and night, death and rebirth, but the spiritual world and the physical one. Now before we get started, I want to remind everyone this is a new channel, so if you like these videos, please subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. I love to engage. You can throw the red flag if you disagree with anything I've said here, and we'll engage in the discussion next video. With that, let's get into Ahsoka and how she will reveal what the balance of the Force was and what the Chosen One achieved. In 1977, when Obi-Wan first said this,
"You can't win, Darth. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine."
Vader had no clue what he meant. Neither did we. Neither did George Lucas, really. He just knew that he wanted some kind of spiritual victory at the end of his story. And this is what we ended up with instead.
I am all the Sith.
And I... I'm all the Jedi.
At least they tried, right? I mean, I don't want to get into all the controversy yet again about the sequel trilogy, but I loved The Last Jedi, and the obvious panic of the studio ruined Episode 9 for me. So what should have been? Well, we look no further than an excerpt that never got put on the show, but was part of a science fiction documentary series that James Cameron held with other directors, in which Lucas said, episodes 7 through 9, we're going to get into a microbiotic world, aka more on the midichlorians, but there's this world of creatures that operate differently than we do. I call them the Wills. And the Wills are the ones who actually control the universe. They feed off the Force. Now, the original drafts of Star Wars was called The Journal of the Wills. This is a very old idea of Lucas. Even though he's changed his mind on a lot of different things, this has been there from the very beginning, and Yoda even gets to talk to them. So they were on the right track by having these voices talk to Rey. But I think there was a piece missing. Something that could have made Rey and the Chosen One more like Avatar, where different heroes share the same soul, but have their own life experiences. So Anakin and Rey would be part of the same Chosen One legacy, of a figure who returns again and again throughout time to balance the Force whenever it's needed. But Rey turned out to be the daughter of a failed clone of Palpatine. Luke and Leia never really knew their father as Anakin. Not to mention that those two characters are very difficult to tell stories with anymore. But Ahsoka you can still tell stories with. And that's why I believe she's been kept around.
Ahsoka is a character that Dave Filoni created and worked with George Lucas on in the Clone Wars.
Originally, we didn't know exactly what the Clone Wars was going to be, and there was a Jedi and there was a Padawan, and thought we'll put them on adventures, but George had other ideas. He says, well, let's give Anakin Skywalker a Padawan. And I was like, Anakin doesn't have Padawan. And he just looked at me and said, Anakin has a Padawan. And that was basically it. That's how Ahsoka came about.
So Ahsoka was a creation of Lucas. But the plot hole you probably thought I was going to talk about was why didn't she get any mention during the original trilogy if she was still around? Well, the answer was she wasn't. But the explanation is a little more complicated than that. For that, we have to get into a place called the World Between Worlds and the Mortis Arc. Morgan Elsbeth, in the premiere of Ahsoka, talks about traveling not through just space, but specifically through time.
This is our galaxy. That is our destination. While Grand Admiral Thrawn is banished.
Pathway to Peridia.
Some call it that.
The children at the Jedi Temple call it that. It comes from old stories. Fairy tales.
Tales which are based on truths.
I just love how
You're certain of this?
this place that they're hoping to get to is presented as a
I
myth
feel the
or a
path
legend.
forward is clouded.
Because a lot of our myths and legends have underlying truth behind them.
Thrawn calls to me. Across time and space.
Out.
Well, this is getting more unusual by the minute. I can't even lock down where in the galaxy we are, or if we are even in our own galaxy.
Speaking of time and space, there were other heroes who are also
Are you
called
the
to a
one?
place outside of time.
Hello. Who are you?
I am Dara. Are you the one?
The one what?
I will take you to him.
Did you catch that? It's important. Anakin doesn't really care about being the chosen one.
And what exactly are you?
We are the ones who guard the power. We are the middle, the beginning, and the end. It is forbidden for you to touch me.
In other words, we're beings outside of time and space, the beginning, the middle, and the end. We're basically gods. Don't touch us. It's the rules. Whose rules? We don't know. Maybe the Father's, maybe the Force, but there's just forbiddenness.
Chip back if you don't mind.
Not yet. Is it true that he is the chosen one?
What do you know of such things?
What is about to happen shall occur, whether you like it or not.
So you're getting the heavy-handed gist here. The daughter is the light side, the son is the dark side, and they all want to know if Anakin's the chosen one. Anakin doesn't care, but Obi-Wan and Ahsoka react very strongly to that. Oh no, by the way, this guy kind of laughs when they ask if he's a Sith. It's like, yes and no. Meanwhile, Anakin goes to see the father. Before we keep going with this Clone Wars era, fast forward to about a year before Rogue One. Sabine and Ezra work together to enter the World Between Worlds. They discover that the Empire already knows about the World Between Worlds.
They're archetypes.
Yes, precisely. They're sometimes referred to as the father, son, and daughter.
And Ezra makes his way into the World Between Worlds. Now, the similarities between these two places have limitations, but I think they are very similar, if not the same, place outside of time and space. Either way, they're connected through hyperspace, as we'll see. But the connection is made clear between the two places with the voice of Liam Neeson. Listen carefully.
This place.
A conduit through which the entire force. I am here because you are here.
No, I don't understand. What is this place?
Unlike any other, a conduit through which the entire force of the universe flows.
Qui-Gon's presence here is important, and I do think it's the real Qui-Gon. Because now we're not just in a place outside of time, we're on this spiritual plane, where Qui-Gon would be the most strongest. He says that he's here because he's basically attached to Obi-Wan, which starts to give Force Ghosts some rules finally. But also, they're here because they want to talk about Anakin.
If he is the chosen one, he will discover it here.
And if not?
Then you must realize with his power, this is a very dangerous place for him to be.
And it's dangerous because the dark side is now going to start messing with Anakin. The son takes the form of his mother. But interestingly, doesn't try to tempt Anakin with more power or anything like that, but actually gives him some sound advice.
What kind of black arts is this?
You're dead.
Nothing ever really dies, my son.
No one's ever really gone.
It is time you realize that your guilt does not define you, my son. You define your guilt.
The dark side isn't inherently bad. It represents death, decay, destruction, all necessary things, but also selfishness. Which, selfishness, somewhere in there, is self-love, forgiving ourselves, moving past guilt. Those are good things that the dark side is talking about here. It just doesn't want Anakin to be so focused on loving someone else that it goes against the complete nature of the dark side. And the son also has time to visit Ahsoka and give her a vision of what she could be in the future. As we know, this isn't what Ahsoka looks like in the future, but this is what Ahsoka looks like if she leaves Anakin now, which is what the dark side wants. It wants to isolate Anakin for itself. So Anakin gets up, goes to the father, assumes he's been under some kind of psychological attack, and is like, "Hey, what's up?" And the father's like, "Oh, sorry about that. That's my son. He's just doing his thing." Now the father represents wisdom, reason, logic. If we get too emotional, even on the light side, and the light side daughter does represent empathy and emotion, things can go unbalanced in that direction. But this story happens to be more about the dark side. And the dark side craves more and more and is an addiction.
When news reached me that the Chosen One had been found, I needed to see for myself.
The Chosen One is a myth.
Is it? I should very much like to know. Why don't we find out together? It is time to face your guilt and know the truth.
So Anakin still doesn't believe in the whole Chosen One business, and the father proposes a test. The father asks Anakin to choose one to survive and one to die, and Anakin says, "To hell with that. I choose both."
You will let them go!
Anakin's voice is amplified by the Force, and he has the power of the gods. The gods are threatening both light and dark to do something evil and kill his friends and make him choose. This is Anakin at his full potential. It's no accident that he has to free Ahsoka from the dark side and Obi-Wan from the light side. The dark side is the greatest threat to Ahsoka, for she could fall to it just like her master. And Obi-Wan is so blinded by the light that he has a hard time seeing the dark side or the places where it could be useful. You may be wondering why I'm showing the end credits of Ahsoka now at this point. Did you notice the floor and the surroundings around Anakin as day turned to night? It's the same aesthetic as this map in the end credits of Ahsoka. I wonder why that is. Because this place where Anakin is literally balancing the Force is called Peridea. I think the world between worlds is a type of gateway that you can get to Peridea from. So in other words, I think we're going to see this place again. We'll see Anakin as a Force ghost. Not sure about Ezra and Thrawn, but we will see this place. Either at the end of the Ahsoka series or in the movie that Dave Filoni has coming. And audiences will finally, once and for all be on the same page with what the balance of the Force is. And we'll have Ahsoka to thanks for taking the journey to get us back to Anakin. And there you have it, story fans. We covered the biggest plot hole in Star Wars, which is that Lucas never got to explain the balance of the Force. Keep in mind, he did want to explain it using midichlorians and the wills, the natural side of the Force and the cosmic side of the Force. Ahsoka's going to get us there, and I hope part 1 of this video gave you some insight into how that was going to happen, and what the Chosen One was meant to do when he is at his most powerful, and wasn't tempted by the dark side. Part 2 is going to get into what happens when the Force gets out of balance, and how that happens. But for now, enjoy another episode of Ahsoka this week, and subscribe to make sure you get part 2 of this series. I've been in the Writing Ref. I'll see you next time.